I didn't finish that quiz, but I feel like I whiffed it more than I thought I would.
I said the same thing because they're not really hard questions, but you're like, oh, I should know this.
Yeah, they're kind of all over the place.
Yeah, it's like summer history, summer math. It's like a general knowledge quiz of things you know for a fact that you learned. I'll post the link on my Instagram story at Mary Santora Comedy. It's 50 questions, but it is some where you're like, oh, for sure, and you're like, what? What is that? But yeah, for my brother to get 41 and then complain that it should have been 44, but because the quiz was wrong. I mean, come on, man.
Sometimes I second guess and get it wrong.
Yeah.
Well, some of them I was answering too quickly because I was sure, and I was like, no, you dummy.
Like what? We don't have to give all of them
The
away.
capital of Kenya.
Oh, okay.
I put Lagos. I'm like, that's Nigeria,
yeah.
dummy. It's Nairobi in Kenya.
Come on.
I know. Silly things like that.
It's not Quebec?
It's not Quebec.
Quebec is the capital of Kenya. Right.
Here's a math one. This is stupid.
I got every single math one right. Like those were the
Well,
ones
yeah, you're good at math.
I
I
knew
can
those
do,
ones
like,
for
the
sure.
grammar ones are easy
Grammar's
for me.
easy.
Yeah.
History, I am like, I know that I learned this. I just, for whatever reason, history never stuck with me.
Julie says Mary's brother sounds like a one-upper.
Yeah.
My sister used to date a guy like that, and he was a loser. All right. Well, what are you going to do? Speaking of Chris Rock, by the way, the FCC got a lot of complaints about Will Smith slapping Chris Rock. You know, usually the FCC gets complaints like when, when Janet Jackson showed a boobie.
Very happy with my results.
At the Super Bowl. What's that?
I got 37 out of 50.
You beat me. I only got 32.
You probably have your master's degree.
Hey,
I
look
didn't
at
graduate
that.
high school.
Good for you.
So they are wrong. You
I bet I
don't.
didn't even do that well.
So this quiz is dumb.
Is it dumb or are you like, no, this is perfect?
No, I just think, because there was definitely some where I'm like, that was a guess, and I got right. Like,
Yeah.
Oh, I get what you're saying,
like,
yeah.
process of elimination.
You
got me
probably
5 or
have
6,
your
yeah.
master's degree. Yeah, I got 35. I whiffed.
You beat. Bill's smarter than you.
I'm the smartest on the show right
Yeah,
now.
no, good for
Watch
him.
Cody get 49. It's like how he knew all 50 states and their capitals or whatever.
Of course I know Jupiter.
Where are you at, Cody?
Is he doing it?
He is, yeah.
Oh,
but
okay.
he doesn't have his stuff on.
Only at 26%.
Oh, you're not.
Yeah, he's
okay.
like barely through it.
Sorry.
No, hey,
My
whatever.
crunchity water bottle.
You smell the wood burning through Poundcake, so. Yeah, the FCC got 66 complaints out of all of the people who watch the Oscars. They got 66 complaints. And this is always, it's a very poorly kept secret, by the way, that the FCC, when they were trying to lord over radio and television stations and use them like piggy banks with fines and things, they would say, well, we've got to do this because we got a couple of letters. Oh, did you? Mm-hmm. Country of 350 million people, you got a couple of letters? So they didn't, they got 66 complaints out of all the people watching the Oscars telecast.
We got 20 calls, and as you know, one call equals a billion people, which means 20 billion people were offended by this.
Exactly. I think that's how that math works. I would like to report that I was extremely disturbed by a violent display, and then they lay it all out. There was cursing. The level of violence from one black man inflicted onto another over something he didn't like hearing is intolerable. I thought Black Lives mattered.
Oh, God.
Says this viewer from Michigan. Will Smith should be fined and suspended. Suspended from what?
The Oscars?
You are suspended from the Oscars.
Suspended from acting?
A lot of parents complained about their kids witnessing an assault on live television.
Kids aren't watching the Oscars.
Claiming it led to some very uncomfortable conversations with their children.
It's so annoying to me that's
You're going to have to do better than I had to have an uncomfortable conversation with my children. Life is uncomfortable conversations with your children.
That's being a parent.
You got to get it together, Jack. If you don't know how to have a conversation with your kid, they might be exposed to something a little earlier than you'd like them to, but
And also,
why do we got to hold your hand because you're having the worst thing that could happen to anybody is to be uncomfortable all of a sudden.
what kids watching the Oscars?
Including one, these are all made up too. One viewer in Oklahoma who says their kids asked them, if black men are always violent.
Oh, my God.
Right. You know how kids will ask that? So, yeah, they FCC fielded some complaints from people. And they also determined that the Academy wasn't telling the truth when they said they asked Will Smith to leave. And they're trying to figure out. They said, well, we asked him and he refused. And we weren't going to drag him out. And then somebody said, no, didn't. Nobody asked him. So it's all very, very weird. 2 nights in a row, they've had to eject a fan from Chris Rock's shows. He's back on the road. I played you a clip of him in Boston the other night. And he's had a couple of shows, second night of Boston shows. He just added a 4th at the Chicago Theater. So everywhere he goes, he's adding more shows. And I thought if you guys haven't seen this story, you would know. You guys would chuckle because of what the woman said.
Oh, God.
Woman got kicked out because she and her friend were there and they were drunk and they were yelling and they were like, F. Will Smith. And Chris Rock's like not really there for that. He's like, no, that's not, whatever. And so they ended up kicking this woman out and her friend because she kept yelling. And the woman was out front flipping the bird and cursing about Chris Rock and blah, blah, blah. And the woman was like, I didn't do anything. I'm drinking. I had some shots. I don't give a F. I paid $80 for my tickets. But she said, we weren't heckling him. We had front row seats. We were endorsing him, responding to his jokes.
Yeah.
Which is what you want at a show.
You want laughter. You don't want commentary.
He was interacting with us, but security took us out. Yep.
That's how many times that's happened, dude. I had a guy, I just did a show in Lorraine a couple days ago. Thank you to everybody who came out on Wednesday. There was a guy at the front table who had this laugh that was just like, it was just so distracting. But like he would laugh and then other people would laugh, but then it would carry on for a while. And at one point I acknowledged it and joked with it, but I almost wanted to ask him to be like, hey, could you not laugh? But I felt like he was doing it on purpose. Like he was like laughing harder because it sounded silly. But someone was like, you should hire this guy. And I was like, you have no idea how distracting this is. Like you can't even, like, yes, technically you're not doing anything wrong, but you're not helping.
Well, we know there's a certain person that, like, for our album recordings, we're like, because he laughs so loud.
On purpose.
And it's very distracting. And it can, destroy a recording. It makes everybody else in the room feel like, why are you laughing so much louder?
Well, these first few shows back, too, Chris Rock's going to be dealing with... Remember when Charlie Sheen came through? It was years ago. It was a decade back when Charlie Sheen was trying to capitalize on his Tiger Blood thing, and he did that Violent Torpedo of Truth tour, and he played Playhouse Square. And we went. I think Erica went. And the crowd was just yelling through the whole thing. They were like yelling, winning, or because it was like a circus. He didn't really have an act. He just came out and sat, and they had initially asked me if I wanted to moderate, do the Q&A with Charlie Sheen, and I was totally down for that. But I think they ended up hiring a guy to do it on the road because they were like, they didn't want it getting out of hand. They kind of wanted to keep it
the same guy.
It's the same guy, yeah. But it was just people screaming and yelling, and Charlie Sheen was kind of eating that up, but he didn't have an act either.
What was the one that you did, Walking Dead Live? That was very fun.
Walking Dead Live was great. Yeah.
Very good job.
Thanks. But yeah, so Rock's got people yelling out at him and screaming, and he's like, I'm not, I do have a whole show prepared. So they've had security, more security at these theater shows than they had at the Oscars. But he's got people yelling. I bought a ticket on StubHub thinking that he would have a whole bit about the Oscars, but he didn't, one fan said. And that's the thing, too. These people are going to the show. That's why it's smart for him to go, I don't have a whole hunk. It doesn't really work that way. I don't have a whole hunk on this. And when I do, it's going to be prepared and thought out and
it takes time to process
and performed
it and
the way I want to
Yeah.
perform it, rather than like, wasn't that crazy? But yeah, there are like,
People want to show
apps
up for
and
tea or something like that. Like they're going to get some inside, but it's just, not. I wouldn't show up expecting him, even in June when he's here. I don't think he'll have anything because he's doing this other hour. Maybe by then, I don't know.
It might only be a couple minutes too. Like he's not focusing on that. Who knows?
Stand Up New York, that club put a sign in their window with a message and then side-by-side photos. The one on the left of the slap, and it has a circle with a line through it. And then the one next to it is a picture of Will Smith crying as he's accepting his award. And it says, "You after being removed from the showroom." It said comedians, it's a sign in the window at Stand Up New York because people who are running comedy clubs are like, we're a little concerned that people are going to think that it's like fair game, or even if you don't have a beef with somebody, you know, that door has been opened by somebody who's very, very prominent.
Well, think of how we have to deal with it here in the Midwest where people have guns.
Yeah. Well, they got those everywhere.
I know, but I mean, especially in the Midwest.
Heckling and physical abuse of comics is prohibited, and patrons will be immediately removed from the showroom as part of their long sign in the window. Danny Zoldan is the owner of Stand Up New York, which has been there a long time. That's one of the oldest clubs in New York. Is Catch a Rising Star still a thing?
No, that hasn't been a club since.
I didn't think so.
Say like the 90s.
It's been gone. Or I thought they moved it out into like the sticks or something. But
no, Catch a Rising Star closed. Or they might have renamed it because there's not even an Improv in New York City anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
So a lot of these clubs are like, yeah, we're not going to, if we see anything like this, we're going to pull you out. Zero tolerance policy, which is what you got to hope, you know. I mean, they tell you in the announcement at most clubs, hey, shut up.
Quiet.
Turn your phones off.
Knock it off. Knock it off.
It's going to be a good time. It's going to be fun.
Well, I did High and Dry last night and talked about it a little bit, just like did one little throwaway joke. And some of my friends before the show, they're like, what's the over-under on how many Chris Rock jokes there was going to be? And there's actually only 3.
Wow.
Out of like 8 comedians, so that's pretty good.
Where was this?
At High and Dry in Tremont.
Oh.
Yeah. And
last night?
every Thursday, 8 p.m.
Didn't you have a thing last night?
Wednesday, I was in Lorraine.
Wednesday.
And tonight, I'm in Menor, but that's sold out.
Oh.
But next week, Pittsburgh. Not sold out yet. BillSquire.com.
Yeah. Well, you got to get them in there.
Yeah.
Might as well. So, there's also a girl on TikTok who did work for Cracker Barrel. She doesn't work for Cracker Barrel anymore, but she mentions that it took her a little while to figure out what people were talking about at her Cracker Barrel in Arizona. She was a former hostess, and she said it took her a while to figure out. The staff used Canadians as code word for black people.
Oh, that's I've heard
so
that for a
old.
long time.
I've never heard that before.
That's
really?
like childhood old. I feel
Canadians for
Yeah.
I've never heard that.
I feel like I heard that for the first time in like middle school.
I heard it for the first time.
In what context?
Like if you wanted to talk smack about black people, instead of saying black people or using like the N-word or another racial slur, you would say a bunch of these Canadians.
Really? I've never heard
People
that.
have been doing that in restaurants for a long time too.
That's where I learned it was.
I mean, I worked in restaurants for a long time. I never heard Canadians.
It makes sense to
I
me.
got a full table of Canadians. Yeah, people.
That's
would
what
say
this
that.
girl
Yep.
says. She's like, it was
Canadians
either
don't tip, that kind of thing.
it was either Canadians or NIMS,
That I've not heard.
which was N-words in my section.
Ooh, that's
Boy,
I finished my quiz, by the
I
way.
mean, the place is called Cracker Barrel, but what?
he finished the quiz. What'd you get?
32 out of 50.
Hey, me and Cody are the same.
That's pretty good.
It said fantastic. You probably have your master's degree.
Oh, see, Bill, we have the master's degree too.
I actually thought I did a lot worse.
32 is good.
But yeah, I've heard Canadians.
Yeah.
Day's never finished. Master got me working. Someday Master set me free.
I've never heard of Canadians. Girl said that happened to me too. People were commenting. It happened to me too at a water park. I had no idea. I was lifeguarding and had no idea that's what it was. This waitress, this hostess was like, I couldn't figure out how people were. I didn't hear Canadian accents in the place, and so I didn't know what they were talking about. And I had an old coworker come to me and asked me if I saw the Canadians. And she didn't know what they were talking about. But you guys are saying this is an old timey
Been going
thing.
on for a long time.
Huh.
Yeah.
Of course, Cracker Barrel says they will look into the...
Oh,
We're going to look into the matter, and, we'll see what we come up with. You ever heard Canadians, Poundcake?
No, but that doesn't surprise me.
Well, no, the notion of it doesn't surprise me, but Canadians is...
No, yeah.
I wonder how they landed on that.
Well, because they've never said it to me or around me because I figured they would think that I would figure it out. But no, I mean, what words do they use to describe black people that's not like overtly racist? I don't know. That's never.
I wonder how they
it's not
landed
even-
on Canadians.
They're trying to hide the racism. So
Yeah, it's covert. It's not overt.
I mean, that's what I mean, covert. But still, like if you say you have a table full of Canadians and I'm like, how do you know they're Canadian? And I look and see it's a bunch of black people. I'm gonna be like, oh, you're a racist bitch, and you just don't want me to know. You don't want to say openly that you're racist, so you have to speak in code. She got that code switch, and yeah, I don't know.
But what is the point of having a code word in the first place?
Because that actually I talked about
Like, why would you be referring to? Like, I guess I'm trying to figure out the conversation. Like,
because you don't want to be labeled a racist.
so you can talk about it openly and nobody says anything to you.
But what's the point of mentioning that you have black people at your table? Who
Because
cares?
Because of
You're venting.
stereotypes
Yeah.
like they don't tip or they're rude or loud or whatever other things go on.
I
Same
see.
or like in a movie theater, like all your typical black people stereotypes that people want to comment on, but don't want to say it's about black people. So they say it's about Canadians.
The only thing I can contribute to this is I had a friend that was in psychology in college, and she would tell me, because she was like, you don't really have any black friends. And I said, that are men. I have black girlfriends, but I don't have black male friends. And I was like, I don't know if it's the gay thing or if it's because I've been called like a coon several times. And she was like, oh no, it's probably the gay thing. I'm like, no, but I get called a coon more than I get called a fag. And she's like, well, it's because they would rather think that you're racist so they don't have to deal with you rather than calling you, gay, because
then that makes puts
that
it on
makes them look bad.
Yeah.
She was like, there's several different ways to abuse people if you're looking to abuse. There's gaslighting, there's physical abuse, sexual abuse, a bunch of different ways to abuse if you search to abuse. She said the same thing is with racism. Back when, the blacks were getting the right to vote, they had to allow them to vote. But what would they do? They would have a jar full of marbles or something like that, and say, hey, we'll let you vote as long as you guess what number marbles were in this jar. So they could say, hey, we gave him the option, he just couldn't fulfill.
Yeah, that's
the
not
needs.
letting them vote. There were no conditions on the right to vote.
Well, I'm just saying that's how they justified it. So they try to justify, being homophobic by saying that I'm a racist or like I'm a coon.
Did you ever have to guess the number of marbles in a jar?
No.
I mean, I'm just saying, based on the quiz, I think you'd probably have a pretty good shot at it. This quiz thinks you got your master's degree. It thinks we all got master's degrees.
We do.
Man,
Do you have a master's degree?
I do not.
A master's degree from the Hard Knocks.
Got a bachelor's degree.
There was no point. By the time I graduated, I wasn't even using the degrees I got. So I'm like, what am I going to go to further? What am I going to get another degree for?
That's what I'm saying.
Finally, you understand Bill.
Alan, at my old job, people would say Mondays because everybody hates Mondays. Yeah, I've never heard any of these. Well, there you go. Everything old is new again. And a new generation of kids find out the hard way about that. So the next time you're at one of these restaurants and there's a giant jar of marbles, now you know what's going on.
I think you might be conflating.
Could I get my check? I don't know. How many marbles are in this jar?
Wait, if you guess it wrong, you don't have to pay your check? I'll sign up for that.
Sure, why not?
8 marbles.
Alan, it's because they're terrible tippers. They run you to death and they tip 10%. I don't know, man.
As if that's like something that white people don't
I waited
also do.
I waited a lot of tables and I had bad tippers of every shade and size. There are a lot of bad tippers, boy.
I worked at
Nobody has cornered the market on that.
I worked at a place that was primarily busy for lunch, and it was business people. That's pretty much all that we had were business people. And there are men who would throw down their heavy Amex for a table of 8 guys and appetizers and this and that, and they'd still tip you 10%.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So it doesn't...
Right, it's not.
Johnny Big Balls isn't throwing anything your way.
That's my most... I hated that. Because I'm like, oh, these are all business people. And then I also worked at like a members-only club, and it was the same thing. Where I'm like, you pay a yearly fee to get in here, and you bring in all your dudes and you schmooze them up.
You all have
and
matching jackets.
Yeah, and you give me $6 friggin' on your $100 tab. Oh my God.
That's why I hated prom season and homecoming season, because I worked fine dining, and you get these kids that blew all their money on the limo and the tux rental, and you'd have these 8 tops full of douchebag just one after the other after the other. They'd leave you like a nickel, like a physical nickel on the. Oh God, it sucked. And I was their age, so it was like, it just, Okay, I've got to take a break here. I will have, for people asking me if I still have copies of WW2K22, I do. I got one more. So if you're trying to grab that, I'll get you on the way back here. 35192 to shoot a text, and we'll be back.
This is the Alan Cox Show. Everywhere on our free